Hi, I'm Alicia. Thank you for joining us today. And before you take this journey with us, I just want to say this is a podcast, okay? This is not a therapy session. Yes, we talk about real and sometimes heavy stuff, so consider this your trigger warning. And I'm a licensed therapist, but nothing here is medical advice or a substitute for professional mental health care. Because remember, we're just like talking to comedians. Anyway, welcome to Xanyland. Hi everyone, we're here with Julia Jasunas, and we're going to talk today about a little narcissism.
Yeah.
Just a little.
Just a little.
Or maybe the real deal.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the clinical narcissistic personality disorder versus
Said so well.
the stigma of just narcissists, you know?
Because we're all narcissists anyway, so
Yeah.
why talk about that?
Exactly.
Anyway.
Welcome to the Xanyland podcast. I'm your host, Alicia, a licensed therapist. And we're hanging out with comedians because who else is going to be honest about being crazy?
I think it's just funny if the whole time we act narcissistic, the whole episode, do you know what I mean? Like that just kind of like, so we're not only talking about it, we're also embodying it for the audience so they really get it.
That's what I told you before, just act natural.
You fucking bitch. My question earlier was going to be, since you are a comedian, does your, before we sort of dive into it, does your comedy reflect this topic? Has this come up a lot for you in your comedy?
I mean, I don't flat out say narcissist or anything, but I do talk about my experiences in my relationships.
Yeah.
It was a really cathartic way to like work through a lot of it.
Yeah. I bet.
And it became this big chunk of my comedy. Yeah, just talking about different instances or different things that, you know, he would do or like situations we were in and yeah, processing it and being like, oh, that was really fucked up.
Do you have a favorite killer joke? Because, you know, this is great, right? You have to make money from these horrible moments.
It.
You gotta monetize it. What, do you have like a favorite? Is there like a crowd favorite?
One that worked right off the bat was saying, you know, he would mess with my head. He would lay there and make me guess which parts of his body I could touch to turn him on. And I don't know what parts of your body turn you on. I know what turns me on, but you don't have those parts. You know, like ambition or a 401k.
I love that one. Why would he make you guess, though? Can we like actually just dive into that for real? Would he actually do that?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, it was bizarre. It was like...
Did you know it was bizarre in the moment?
I mean, yes, I did, but they kind of, you know, the stigmatized term these days is gaslight, but, you know...
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he would do that, and there was always some criticism around our sexual relationship, and it was like flat out blaming me for things I wasn't doing, or like you know. So once I took a step back, I was like, no, I'm not the crazy one. What's wrong with you?
Was this your only narcissistic personality disordered person that you were in relationship with, or is this a pattern for you?
It is a pattern for me, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I am out of it now, thankfully. Great. But
did it start with a partner, or did it start with a parent?
Probably a parent. Yeah.
Okay.
With the romantic relationships, it started probably, I would say, in my mid to early 20s. And then you kind of learn as you go, right? And what I've discovered is there are different kinds of narcissists, so they hide in society. That's the thing, the misconception. Narcissism, people think that they're just really full of themselves, that they talk about themselves all the time. It's based in major self-loathing.
It is based in major self-loathing, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone kind of knows about the grandiose narcissist. And even though in the DSM, that is one of the characteristics.
Yeah.
They don't actually have to have that characteristic in order to be diagnosed with NPD.
Right.
Because you only need 5 of the so many characteristics that are in the DSM, and they might not have that one. And then I was reading that there's 2 grandiose or vulnerable, but you're actually telling us there's more. That's great. So when you guys do your own research, they're doing 2 subtypes now.
Yeah.
Which I think is really important.
So they were both, and I think that's why I fell into another relationship with one, because the signs I was looking for were not the same, but it was like the same underlying issues.
Yes.
So it's a fascinating topic. I mean, like, I think researching about it and learning and understanding about the disorder really helped me like process and get through everything. You know, narcissism, just as an adjective, is thrown around so cavalierly, and like same with gaslighting more recently. I feel like, you know, that's become a very trendy thing to say.
Yeah.
I do know in Los Angeles there's likely more narcissists than other places, so maybe it's a skewed view, and they are in fact, you know, using it correctly, but
well, because that need for attention, which is part of the list, could bring you to entertainment for sure. Right.
Yeah.
We might have more here.
It actually was a friend of mine who called it out first, because she had a relationship with a narcissist. And it's, you know, it's like down to mood swings and blame, like for things that they're doing. They mirror, you know, what they're doing onto you and say that you're doing it, even though they're the ones doing it.
A lot of projection.
Yeah, a lot.
How did you manage that? Did you feel like there was something wrong with you for a long time?
Part of it, you know, there's like, it's that vacillation of like frustration, but frustration that like you don't think you're crazy, and then like they keep telling you you are. So that's what a lot of my comedy is. It's like, you know, like, I'm not crazy. But then it comes off crazy because, you know, you've become kind of manic.
You become kind of manic about not being crazy.
Yeah.
Or like that like you're trying to prove yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So,
have you heard about the narcissist echoist? I think I brought that up a little bit on our phone call. Has any of your research reflected sort of that? Like, I guess it was Ovid that wrote the like Greek tragedy, and it's sort of Narcissus, and then there's Echo.
Right.
And so now they're talking about how like the person in the relationship becomes this sort of, you lose your sense of self by orbiting them in their world, right? And that's part of the design. It's for you to lose yourself and lose your voice and then become like Echo, who can only just parrot what exists for them. Yeah. Did you feel that?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of my friends did mention that story and talk about it because.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
You have cool friends. They're just like, he's a narcissist, you're Echo. What's up?
Pretty much, therapy. Almost just like that.
Is it one friend or multiple friends?
That in particular, I mean, she's a friend. She's my hairdresser, like my childhood hairdresser, and she's like,
what's her name? Let's call her out.
No, she's amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she was one of the major people who helped me through it.
Wow.
Yeah, because she had been through. Once you've been through it, it's easy to help other women through it because they're not original at all. Like, that's the one thing about narcissists, and I'm sure they would hate hearing it, but like their textbook, you know, it's like everything is to a T. That's why it's easy to...
This is dope, honestly. I think this is really super cool and super dope to be like, they are not original. Here's the like workbook. Yeah. Get the workbook.
Because they don't have a sense of identity.
Yes, right.
So their emptiness and self-loathing, they're filling it, you know, with trying to control you and trying to, you know, feel better by being better than you, even though they deep down know, like, they envy you. Because,
yes, they do.
Yeah. They do.
I find this part really interesting, though, that they don't have a sense of identity. So what they do to the other is to steal their identity, so that you're left identityless as well, right? And there's just two shells of people, essentially, is what happens. Yeah.
But the difference is, and, you know, with Narcissus and Echo, there is a counterpart, and there's a counterpart to Narcissus. It's an empath. So, so once you distinguish what you are, because a lot of empaths who deal with narcissistic abuse, they go through like textbook healing processes of like dealing with it, thinking maybe I'm the narcissist, and then getting angry and sad and like vacillating between wanting them back and then, but knowing it's not right and like not wanting it back because there's this addiction that comes with it because they're breadcrumbing you with like little moments of happiness, and the brain works in such fascinating ways like that because you know it's not safe, but then there's something familiar about it.
I love this term, breadcrumbing. Is that your term, or did you hear that?
No, that's not my term. No, I haven't made any of it.
You should have just taken credit just now. Breadcrumbing is a really good way to put it, though. There's a podcast I listened to a little bit this morning. It's a friend's podcast. It's called Beyond Trauma, where she interviews more like clinicians as opposed to me who's interviewing comedians. And the woman that came on was talking about narcissistic personality disorder and how they need their supply. I thought that was such an interesting word. Have you heard that word as well? Yeah. Like they're vampires. Like they're just,
I thought of it like a spider. And that actually helped me because it like dehumanized him and it just made it like this spider who was like just trying to get like supply, like eat me. You know, it was just, so once I took,
that's heavy.
Yeah.
That's really heavy. Like, I just want to say that sucks. And especially when it happens multiple times, because then what we're here to talk about really is after that is all this healing that you have to do. And I'm excited to hear sort of about the playbook and then also the process of regrowing yourself essentially, right? And reforming your own sense of self. As you pull away. But anyway, go back. So it felt like he was like a spider.
Yeah. But that was one of the things that just helped me because I was like, oh, he's not a person. And then you also deal with part of it, which is like none of it was real, you know? And what my hairdresser helped me with and like my other friends who've gone through the healing process of it is like, well, it was real for you because you actually love. So once you, once you focus on yourself and like what good you were giving opposed to the fakeness on their end, then it doesn't feel, that's I think where the healing comes from because you're realizing, you know, oh, I have all of these qualities. You're finding your qualities again that you had which actually attracted them to you in the first place because they want those qualities because they're not capable of love.
Do you believe there's a theory out there that they're also attracted to you because they know that you have the capacity for them to take over? So you have the qualities, these qualities of love, these qualities of vulnerability and empathy and all these things that they desperately want. But then also, you know, in sort of in the way that a pedophile grooms a child, they also can see in that child that the child is vulnerable at that time, right? They're an opportunist. Are narcissistic, are NPDs the same way? Do they like, could they see in you that there was a window of opportunity in you? Oh, and I'm only saying this because I think this is important for listeners. They have to be able to see in themselves what makes them vulnerable to the
sure.
right.
The second relationship for sure, because it took, I was still healing from the first one and that one took me a while just because I was processing all of it.
Yeah.
And then there's this aspect of feeling like, why is this taking me so long to get over this person when other people seem to be getting over relationships significantly faster? But you realize and you process all of this like abuse that you've gone through, like psychological abuse.
Yeah.
So that's how I ended up in the second relationship. I was like still processing it. I thought I was healed, you know, or like healing and on a good path, and then just fell into another relationship because I was vulnerable.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So it doesn't always have to be that way, but it can be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't always have to be that way. Narcissist and Echo, or like the empath and the narcissist, they both usually come from like narcissistic backgrounds or upbringings in some capacity.
That's the dinger right there, I think.
Yeah.
Like, that's the ding, 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 that there is somewhere deep in the psyche a connection.
Yes.
And that part is unconscious, and they've developed very differently.
Yeah.
But that link, unfortunately, is what, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that a narcissist could end up, or someone with NPD, we'll keep saying that so we don't get confused.
Yeah.
Could end up in a relationship with anyone and still untangle that person's sense of self.
Yeah.
But I think it's really tragic and dangerous when those two links happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
a lot of the time with NPD abuse at, you know, in your adolescence or in your upbringing in general, then what comes out of it is either the empath or the narcissist.
Yeah.
So they're enduring the same abuse. It's just however they're wired, that's their defense mechanism.
Yeah.
They end up in either of those positions, and then, you know, you're looking for familiarity. Anybody in a relationship is looking for familiarity from their childhood. So
That's right.
so it's pretty simple in that way.
Yeah.
It's to, you know, look back and realize, oh, these are the connections. It's what I don't know is how one becomes one and one becomes the other. You know, from if they
That's
endure,
so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. It probably is built on the type of narcissistic parent that they have, and because then you could also become a vulnerable narcissist. So like it gets
Right.
confusing. It's probably based on temperament, the style of abuse.
Because that to me is like, well, nature versus nurture in that sense. It's like how you're handling the trauma, like
That's right.
how it manifests.
That's right.
So, yeah, I just find that really fascinating. But
Whether you become like a hypervigilant empath,
Yeah.
right, or you develop the shield of narcissism, usually grandiose shield, but both people are sort of empty inside and desperate for some type of validation or making sure that the relationship, like they're always working on some type of relationship because there's a lack of attachment there, which is super important for people to know that for NPD, it does come from trauma and abuse in the child, right? And that they also have a disorder. Like it is so important to know as we're talking about them that it's a this is insane. And this one's growling.
You like treat, what is it?
NPD?
NPD?
100%.
Like, or-
well, it's hard to get a narcissist
That's what I'm
into
saying.
therapy. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
So
Yeah, say-
from everything I've read, and correct me if I'm wrong, you cannot heal a narcissist. You cannot treat a narcissist because innately they don't think they know something's wrong, but their ego is such where they will not work on it.
Yeah. I think that would be the issue. The issue is that it's really hard to get a narcissist to go into therapy and to work on and be honest about these narcissistic parts.
Right.
That being said, as a person who is like fundamentally believes in change and believes in psychotherapy, and that's why we're here, I'm a hardcore vigilante when it comes to this. It's an attachment disorder, just like borderline personality disorder. These personality disorders that for a long time they were like, you can't fix. And I believe that is not true. I believe that if this person came in and they were like, I have destroyed all of my, if they're for whatever reason, they got to rock bottom, they're like, I have destroyed all of my relationships. I know something is wrong. You know what I mean? For whatever reason, the narcissist was able to have that window, that moment. I believe they got with the right therapist that probably is going to do some long-term attachment-focused therapy. So maybe attachment-focused EMDR, some kind of long-term psychoanalytic therapy where the relationship is really important. I believe that they could develop more of a sense of self, a healthier ego, and slowly heal the personality disorder. Can you just go to take meds? Can you just like take a med, do some CBT?
Yeah.
No fucking way. So I think that when they're saying that, it's like, yeah, you can't do like traditional easy therapy where you go in and you can self-reflect and just like.
I was going to say because they're not honest people.
Yeah.
So, and they're such perpetual liars that, you know, I think they've rewired their brains to believe their own lies. So I think it's so muddled in there. So I want to be.
It's muddled for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And also like it's so hard because we have to believe that the disorder is not the person.
Right.
With NPD, I hear you. Like it's in a personality disorders, it's so intertwined.
Any hope.
You know why I think that's really important too? Is because women are fixers. You know, everyone has
Yeah.
jokes about that. We're just
I
fucking.
have a joke
Do you have a
about
joke
that.
about that?
Yeah.
Oh my god, tell us your joke before I say my piece. Why not? Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like a general joke. It was, let's see. So, I mean, we all, like, women need to fix men, you know? That's it. It's like innate. Like, we come out of the womb and we're like, I need a project. I choose you, you know?
Yes.
Um,
I think because of that,
Yeah.
we need to tell all the women out there, they can't fucking heal. Don't listen to anything I said.
Well, and that's why I was saying you have to be responsible about it, because that kind of healing, yes, in theory it's possible, but to get that narcissist in the room and be honest with you.
And we're talking at least 5 years of work. We're not talking about like inconsistent therapy.
But also they are so ego driven that to even speak to a therapist, they want to perform for the therapist.
Of course.
So
Yes.
So yes.
They do. But I will tell you, if your therapist is a good therapist, we know, and I say this in the trailer, we know you guys are full of shit. And it's important for us to be able to, for someone to come in and for us to be able to go, this person has a personality disorder. This person is fucking lying, but I'm going to slowly work them. Do you know what I mean? Like that's a good therapist. I believe that they're out there. All I'm saying, you girls cannot fix this man.
No. And
you cannot fix this man.
And I've also experienced and seen other women experience narcissists who intentionally go to therapy and weaponize it. I've been to therapy.
No, that's so smart. Yes, go say it.
Yeah, I've been to therapy. I've done the work. I've been, like they told me this, they told me that, and it's I don't know if the therapist maybe didn't catch that they had a personality disorder because they are master manipulators, or
sadly that's true.
Yeah.
But I have to stand in my space of like, I believe that humans have disorders and that they can do the work and that they can always, I believe in rehabilitation. I have to believe that. At the same time, I am with you in don't fucking try to go fix one. Don't get caught up in one. This is not the job for you.
And don't wait for them to
Don't wait for them. I agree.
Yeah, don't do any of that because, yes, like I said, in theory, they can go do the work, but they would have to drop so much of the facade that I just, like, innately, they just don't.
They just don't. And they don't, and they're not likely to.
Yeah.
I do want to say though, if you do go do work, get the fuck away from them.
Yeah.
And do the work on that echoist part.
Right.
Like, get in there. Why did I stay with them? How did I attract them? What parts of myself did I lose? How do I, right? I mean, how do I be an empath but protect myself as an empath? That's
because you don't want to fall into it again, which I never thought I would. And then I was like, oh my gosh, here we go again,
Those slippery motherfuckers.
I know, so slippery.
The ChatGPT today said they're like a haunted house with great curb appeal.
Interesting.
I love that.
That's great.
I like it.
Oh, I had a question for you as well. Oh,
what are we doing here?
I know. Well, that's...
I'm in perimenopause. That's my problem. What's your problem?
I probably am too. I don't know.
Wait, how old are you?
35.
Oh, God. You're not there yet. Well, actually, it starts in your 30s, right? Well, now they're saying that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that in my 30s. I just thought I was hot to trot. I did.
There's so little information on women's health.
There's so little information on women's health and on mental health. That's why we're here. Okay.
Well, also,
did you question if you were a narcissist?
I have from time to time. But that's like one of the main things that they say is a sign that you're not one. It's like if you're even thinking that you are in the first place.
That's really good. Yeah. That's really good. If you're wondering if you're a narcissist, you're probably not one.
Yeah, like if it's bothering you.
If it's bothering you, because it doesn't really bother them.
Yeah, because some of them, and that's the difference, because some will say that, like, am I one? But that's even a manipulation. So...
Okay, let's talk about this, and I think this is really important. So, the narcissist has a playbook. I like how you said they're not original.
They're not at all.
I love that. Can you throw out some not original bullshit that they do?
Gaslighting is one for sure.
Yes.
Projection is one for sure.
Yes.
Being hot and cold, so breadcrumbing or love bombing, which I think is another term that's come up more recently in pop culture.
For sure.
So love bombing is saying that saying all these nice things and just like overwhelming you with love and compliments and making you feel really secure and loved and understood and seen.
But then that has to be met with the devaluing. That's really important.
Right. Well, and then once that happens, then they flip the switch. There's also...
When do they flip the switch on you?
I think once they realize that they have you. Yeah.
So it is like a spider. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They trap you and then they just eat you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Does the devaluing happen slowly.
It's very stealth. It's like, well, why did you say that to that person? Or why did, just picking little things apart. Because part of the love bombing is, it's not just overwhelming you with like love, but it's also getting to know you and your vulnerabilities and what you want and crave and need in a relationship. And so because they don't have an identity, they see all of these things and they say, okay, I am all those things. And it's not true because they don't have an identity, but they listen, and that's part of why you feel so hurt is like they're asking you questions about you. They really deeply want to get to know you. So you think, oh, this person, wants the same things I want. They hear me. They understand me. Like, this is amazing. This is perfect. But then another red flag with that is it happens very quickly.
If he listens to you and validates you too much at the beginning, then be worried.
Yeah. If they're trying to move too fast,
that's right.
If they just seem like Prince Charming at the beginning, like just perfect.
Yeah, you want a guy that's like iffy about you for the first 3 months.
If they're willing to take it slow, if there's a give and take,
So then are all lesbians narcissists? Because the joke is
are they really fast?
As the queer person in the room, what do you think?
Are they really fast to get into relationships?
Yes! It's called, what's it called? U-hauling. That's my daughter in the background, everyone.
Why?
Tell us about U-hauling.
Where does that term come from?
They meet each other, they fall in love, and then they move in together.
Like day 3.
Just like, well, that's using me as an example. But yeah.
Wow.
But it is actually 50 to 75%, they say in the DSM for NPD are men. So it's more likely, but
yeah.
There are women out there that are narcissists. You still have to be careful.
There are, and borderline is more common in women.
Common for women, yeah.
I've read up on borderline. I don't really understand the difference. Do you know, what is the difference?
There's a lot of difference actually, but there is some crossover as well.
Okay.
So they are both a personality disorder.
Right.
Which we look at now as attachment disorders, which means that the trauma happened very young.
Okay.
It's usually both neglect and abuse and all of those things. The difference really is in the expression, sort of like how this narcissistic personality disorder could end up vulnerable or grandiose, right? This is where this nature versus nurture thing is talking about how like we just respond to the information that we get differently.
Yeah.
So some people respond passive and some people respond aggressive. So it just women are more likely to develop borderline personality disorder. They more are responding to the abandonment of it, and they're more seeking the safety of the relationship, but they do lots of projection and lots of all of these the things that they do. Whereas the narcissist really wants more of the attention. Yeah. So there's just a slight difference in the expression of the test. So let's say the personality disorder person has to test the other. The test is different.
Interesting.
The proof is different. But they do also, though, have a similar sort of like taking, and borderlines have a lot more of an emotional response.
Okay.
Right? Where the NPD...
Yeah, that's what I've always thought, that they were very volatile with their emotions.
They are.
Yeah.
Where the NPD is way more calculated to do that. There's so much more of the expression of like taking over the other. Yeah. So the expression is very different, and they are very different disorders. I don't mean to say that they're the same thing.
And they're all kind of, would you agree that these disorders are also like on a spectrum?
They are.
Yeah. There's like varying levels of how bad it can be.
And there's comorbidities with other disorders that is important for people to understand.
Right.
Or not really people to understand, but for therapists to understand, so people can come in, they can help them. I do also want to say we wanted to talk a little bit, and we can bring this up after the tiny break, but a little bit about how NPD, and you want to talk a little bit about antisocial personality disorder too, right? Or like sociopathy and antisocial.
Because I actually think, after like looking into everything, I think that the relationship I ended up in after the covert narcissist was a psychopath.
Okay, that's different. And so be tuned because that's some like whole nother world, deep, dark shit. And that first person really like swept you dry to like enter in the real evil.
So serial killers are sociopaths, right?
No, serial
No?
killers are psychopaths.
Okay.
Sociopaths are antisocial personality disorder.
Okay.
Antisocial personality disorder has a lot of these personality disorder traits.
Okay.
Psychopaths is like an add-on. You can add it on to NPD, you can add it on to antisocial.
Interesting.
And psychopaths are the ones that are serial killers because you're adding on that like lack of feeling, that
Okay.
complete charm. You're adding on that extra layer of
Interesting.
like,
Well, there was definitely an extra layer.
and it's not in here. It's not actually in here.
Interesting. Yeah, it's then maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there was just an added later.
Everyone always does this, and it's totally fine. Like antisocial personality disorder is sociopath,
Okay.
which is also like NPD and BPD can be very dangerous. I'm not saying that it
Yeah.
isn't very dangerous. There's actually a book out that I love called Sociopath, and it's
Okay.
about a therapist who's a sociopath. It's
Interesting.
fucking incredible. Read it. It's so
Okay.
cool. It's a memoir. She really goes to show you how that doesn't mean you're automatically evil.
Okay.
Psychopath is really that layer on, and the layer on of psychopath is really where we start to
Okay.
look at like there's zero empathy, there's zero care.
Interesting.
So I mean, we should pull something up and read it about it because I think like that's really
interesting
cool.
because when I read something about it, my understanding was that it was the opposite of what you actually would think it would be naturally. So like sociopath was the serial killer and vice versa. But no, you're saying it's what I initially thought it was.
Yeah, I
So-
think that, that's why we're here too, because there's so
Yeah.
much misinformation out
Right.
there. And you're not wrong. It's just mixing up the two, and the
Mm-hmm.
diagnoses is that like sociopath basically is the colloquial term for antisocial personality disorder. That book is so rad, and I really think it helps clear a lot of that up.
Interesting. Okay.
Psychopath, which isn't a diagnosis actually, it's not its own diagnosis, is what I mean.
Okay.
Is sort of can be an add-on is how I try to look at
Okay.
it to NPD, because you could have NPD, to be honest, with empathy, which is crazy to think.
Really though, is it false empathy? Because what I have learned from like the love bombing and everything, it's this put on empathy to make you feel understood, which kind of just sucks you in more.
Because they could have empathy for not you. You're their victim.
I do know that narcissists tend to have empathy for like animals.
That's right.
Yeah.
So they don't have to be empathy, like they don't have to lack complete empathy, whereas a psychopath, zero.
Okay.
That's why psychopaths often like abuse animals as children and
Okay,
stuff
that
like
makes
that.
sense.
Hey babe, you're a licensed therapist. You have a private practice. You need to get on Mentaya. You know when clients always ask if you take insurance and you have to do that awkward sigh before explaining out-of-network benefits? Well, yeah, Mentaya fixes that. And here's how it works. You sign up at Mentaya.com. Use my code Xanyland for a free month. That's XANYLAND. You know that because you're here. Clients check their benefits through Mentaya's tool before booking so that they know what they'll get back. On average, that's 62%. After sessions, you or your client uploads a super bill to Mentaya. That's it. Mentaya files a claim, follows up, and gets them reimbursed. You get your full rate. No discounting, no chasing claims, no selling your soul to a tech bro. Go sign up now with Xanyland for a free trial. You're welcome. So somehow we have moved on completely from whatever we were talking about.
Sorry.
No, I love it. I love it. This is what we're here for. And we like talked about some of the DSM. We went through the DSM, and we were talking a little bit how about like the DSM is not the be all end all.
No.
I use it because I'm a clinician, but most of the time we try to be really careful to not diagnose someone with NPD or BPD because it's such a harsh diagnosis. But we will often write like narcissistic tendencies or borderline tendencies. And I do want to say that most narcissists, you're right, lack empathy. But it was interesting when you said they have they'll have empathy for animals, though.
Mm-hmm. Because animals are non-threatening to their ego.
Yeah.
And it's like a safe space because they can, they're not going to judge them. Basically, if an animal looks at you, you're not thinking, oh, this animal's thinking that I'm ugly or knows that I, cheated on someone or, they're just looking at you with love. And so it's easy to be kind to them.
It's beautiful, though, that they can feel that attachment with outside of the ego, where you really learn it really is about their insecurity at the end of the day. That is the truth. That's the core of it. Mm-hmm. Whereas a psychopath, that core isn't even there.
Yeah. So definitely not a psychopath then.
I love it. Let's take it back. We're going back. We're backpedaling on number 2. He wasn't a psychopath. But
no, but he had like layers of, it was malignant narcissist, but it was like crazy. It was like,
so the first was covert, which is bullshit because like, how are you supposed to know?
How do you know? That's how they suck you in. Fuck. I know.
How do you know, for a listener, like, how do we know?
It's hard to tell. I would say it's the same signs of like, if they're love bombing you at the beginning, if their core group of friends or their immediate network of people, it either seems surface level or they haven't had friends for a long time, or if they have, it's kind of like a strained relationship.
I think that's a really important one. Mm-hmm. You have to look at people's friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I definitely dated a narcissist or MPD.
Yeah.
And he did not have friends.
Yeah.
Is there a space where there can be someone with MPD that has
lots of friends?
Lots of friends that they're very performative for.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So
she's right, the depth to the friendship.
Yeah, the depth to the friendship. And a lot of the time a friendship relationship is different than a romantic one.
But ultimately, that's a good telltale sign. Mm-hmm. If the relationships are not deep.
Also, how they talk about their exes. That's a big
one. Such a good one.
So, that's funny enough where I started questioning, because I was like, well, if I think that all these exes are narcissists, like, am I one? Because like I don't like them, and I like don't have positive things to say about them.
Fuck.
Yeah, right. But like
cool.
that's how they are. So usually, once they've gotten their supply from you, and they do something called discarding. So once they feel like they've gotten everything they can, they'll discard, but then they might come back around. Usually they do, to get more supply. So they'll like give a breathing period where they generally find somebody else. And then it's like this back and forth, because they also do something called triangulation. They play different people against each other, and that's part of the reason why they talk shit about their exes. Mm-hmm. So they create this like monster to the new supply. So that they're afraid to talk to them, so they can't, corroborate stories or anything like that.
I want to confess that 100% this person did not have great friendships. Mm-hmm. And I said I would never, ever again if they didn't have good friends. Number 2, 100% they talked so bad about their exes. Like you were saying, like they're not original already.
2 for 2.
2 for 2. Mm-hmm. They were all crazy. The exes were all crazy.
That's the term. It's crazy. They were crazy. And it creates this fear in the new supply of talking to them at all. It creates this like stigma around them, and it's really truly their projection of all the abuse that they gave that person. They're like, oh well, they did all these things, but like in reality, the NPD did. So
any other like quick take homes, like if this person is this and this, any other ones like that stand out? Those are good ones.
Those are good ones.
How about something that you might feel? Is there something that like is an experience that was common for you that you felt with the first one that you started to feel with the second one? About yourself. I think you started to question if you were a narcissist.
That's a big one for most empaths. Another one would be, I remember right after the breakup feeling like I needed to prove my worth to myself again. So I went into like hyperactive mode of like getting all these things done off my list that had been sitting there for a long time. And then after that was done, feeling like empty because I was like, oh, what now? You know?
And emptiness is worse. Yeah.
Yeah. So emptiness. And then they also, one thing to consider is they will try to isolate you from your friends, and a lot of the time they have like jealous tendencies.
Yeah, that's an important one. I think the jealous tendencies and that slow isolation of you is a really important one too. Yeah. I can tell you this one time when I tried to break up with this narcissist specifically. We were at a park and he literally jumped around like a leprechaun, like screaming and shouting and like jumping around with like full frustration and anger, like such a doofus, like could not handle the moment. It was actually so embarrassing. Do you know what I mean? But it was such a dig to the ego, like for him, that he just like actually lost it.
I mean, like one of them cried in my closet.
What? No, tell us more.
Was just sitting in my closet like bawling.
Dressed, naked, holding a stuffed animal. What?
No, dressed.
Why in the closet?
I don't know. I think followed me in there, you know, and was just because you know that it's a lot of volatility in terms of like fighting. Like they'll pick a fight. Like if you're constantly fighting with this person, but it's like that the manipulation was like he would yell at me and then get me to the point of crying and then would turn around and like try to console me. Yeah. And I just remember like hearing that switch on the phone and being like, you're crazy.
Like you brought me here.
Yeah.
Because they do really love that.
They love doing that.
Yeah, they love doing that.
Yeah.
And then they can be your savior. Yeah, it's really sick. And then you start to feel like they are the only person that can make you feel better, right? Then it creates that like codependent for some people.
Well, yeah. I mean, to an extent, because like they know all of these things about you, because that's the other thing. They're taking inventory at the beginning when you're being so vulnerable.
Yes.
They're taking inventory of all these things and you feel heard, but they're using it to weaponize you later.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Crazy fuckers. You gotta steer clear.
There is on the board a question. Do you think hecklers are for sure all narcissists?
I think hecklers for the most part are drunk. That's part of how they keep you on the hook, but the other thing was the breadcrumbing. Like I said, you know, like they'll give you like a glimpse of what you fell in love with in the first place and keeps you on the hook. So, you know, all of the negative, it's like you're waiting for the next positive thing that they're gonna like, you know, give you.
Is the entertainment space? It sounds like it's vulnerable to narcissists just by virtue people with narcissism.
Yeah, that's the right way to put it.
By virtue of what they get out of it or what they seek to get out of it.
They're seeking adoration. They're seeking love, attention.
Yeah, but then there's also I feel like I saw this from I think it's Jesse Eisenberg or whatever, that a lot of people that go into theater, they're awkward and they're kind of the theater kid and they're closed off a little bit and they just want to do their craft. They just want to perform. And you were in theater.
I think a difference is, and then I'm not going to say that actors aren't narcissists because that's bananas, but I do think that there is an element of, and I don't know what this says about the narcissist or not the narcissist, but as an actor, you do have to take on a different person and you do hide some of yourself and explore other parts of yourself and take on this other person. And it does require some understanding of others or empathy. Not that narcissists can't take inventory and understand others, they can.
Right.
But I do think that it is a little different than a musician, specifically a singer, frontman, and a comedian who it is really about them.
I had a friend who, you know, dated a narcissist who was a musician in a band. I mean, like...
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
I would
it runs rampant in all entertainment. I mean, you know, look at Harvey Weinstein. I mean, those are like huge examples. But politicians too, that's a big one. If you're searching for like adoration on a grand scale...
This actually proves my point, actually.
Yeah.
Where I said like they could get better, they can also get worse. Mm-hmm. If anything can get worse, it can get better. And so if you take someone that already has narcissistic traits, right, and then you put them in entertainment and you give them power, and then these behaviors are validated, right? And then we add in money, and then we add in, unfortunately, we end up with P. Diddy situations, right? But that's what I mean. I think that you can make it worse, or you can develop, or you can lean towards these like narcissistic traits. And that's where we're getting into like calling people narcissists and back to the diagnosis. And
right, because it's hard to diagnose, because what are the odds that they're going to walk into a therapist's office and then also like get an actual diagnosis, because it's such a hard diagnosis. So,
and then actually have a therapist that knows how to work on it.
So, because I've had a lot of friends say, well, you can't diagnose them or whatever. And I'm like, but I'm looking at all of these, like this list, and they hit all of these points.
Well, I will say they did try to remove it from the DSM.
Interesting.
Between 4 and 5, and they didn't. They actually kept it. But there was a time when they were questioning it as well. But it exists. It's a diagnosis. You can diagnose it.
Yeah. You just have to be really responsible about looking up the DSM and making sure that all the traits,
I do also want to say, when I say everyone is a narcissist, jokingly about Americans or whatever, obviously I think different countries and different styles, like different, styles create different styles of people. Mm-hmm. Taking all of that away, when someone walks into therapy, we are kind of always looking at their level of attachment, ability to attach, and their level of narcissism. So on some sense, and I don't know if people know this, but on some sense, everyone that walks in, we're going non-judgmentally too. How easy are you to attach, or like how good are you developing like real vulnerable attachment? And how narcissistic are you about the way, your style of interacting with others? Like there are people that project that aren't narcissists, right? That aren't NPDs.
Right.
And so, in fact, a lot of people do. And so, in a sense, in every therapy session, unless you're doing short-term CBT, maybe not them, psychodynamic therapy, we are helping people slowly get less narcissistic and more, and have a better sense of attachment. So with everyone, they're the extreme level, but all of us have this in us, and all of us project onto others or objectify others or struggle with vulnerability or struggle.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so it's kind of interesting to be like, at some level, that is all the work that we all have to do that work.
Right.
And I think that's really important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Oh, there's new statistics coming out about how social media has made more people narcissistic as a whole. Like, and it's just going to keep getting worse in society, that more and more people are going to become NPDs, but narcissism is rampant like that. And I think that was a lot of the feedback I was getting. It's like, well, narcissism is in everybody. And it's like, yes, and there is also a very distinct disorder.
There is 100%.
Yeah, but absolutely, everybody has some narcissism. If you look in the mirror and, are thinking things about yourself, there's narcissism.
And it's narcissism. It's not narcissist. It's narcissism as in like all of us could have a stronger sense of self, or that's what we should be working on, and a stronger ego, not the type of ego that's wanting supply from others, but our own stable, resilient ego. That's what we go to therapy for. That's what's so fucking good about it. That is really important. And and also your point on social media. There's a book that came out. I wish I could remember what it is right now. I could look. It's for parents of girls with eating disorders.
Okay.
And it is about how TV media, social media, and everything now has affected that and exacerbated that. And so again, we're talking about a diagnosis that starts from some attachment issues, often has sexual abuse involved, et cetera, et cetera. But unfortunately, the way that our society is set up, it feeds it.
Yeah, the body dysmorphia, the face dysmorphia, all of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep. And so we have to recognize that. Do you have a therapist?
No.
Have you ever?
I have. I would love one. My insurance is really bad.
We had an episode on that. Yeah.
Oh, really?
I mean, most of us don't really take insurance.
Yeah.
Because they pay us terrible. I would take it if they paid me. like a doctor,
Right.
like someone
Yeah.
that has a medical
That makes
degree.
sense. That makes sense.
But they don't, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's on my list when I can afford one.
Yeah.
But
Did you like your therapist in the past?
it was a child therapist for something
okay.
else. So
You did most of this NPD work yourself.
own.
Wow, with your hairdresser.
she went to a therapist that specialized in NPD. Also,
That's cool.
I did have consultations with NPD specializing therapists who did confirm it from what I was sharing. You know, they were like, I don't want to like officially confirm it, but it sounds like pretty spot on. So,
Yeah.
um,
So books. What helped
Books.
you? What are things that
books,
resources that helped you?
podcasts.
Yeah.
One of my friends that helped me through everything, she had this folder, funny enough, a folder on her phone of just screenshots of like quotes and like passages in books and different things like that, and she shared the file with me and we would just like both add to it. And so I've actually shared that with other people.
That's great.
Yeah, and it's just like things about narcissism, things about, you know, just like healing from it, any of that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you have any like standout resources that you want to tell anyone about?
Well, I think, did I send you that podcast?
You did.
Person?
You sent me a podcast person.
Yes.
You liked that person?
I did. I found one of her podcasts really informative.
Okay.
She had parents that were narcissists, and I've heard the terms. I'm not as familiar because I'm an only child, but so there are different categories that you can be put in as a child of a narcissist. So there's like the scapegoat and the golden child, and then I think the one that's neglected. I think. I don't know. I think there's 5. Is there 5?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
But there is a scapegoat and a golden child. Actually, so family dynamics. There's a scapegoat, there's a clown, scapegoat, golden child, clown, rebel.
Maybe. I don't know
Another
in
one.
terms of the narcissist, but the narcissistic parent will put them in one of those categories.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and so she talks a lot about that.
The woman in this podcast. Do you remember the name of this podcast?
It's a fine time for healing because her last name is Fine.
It is a fine time for healing.
Yeah.
Yes. I listened to a little bit this morning. Okay,
yeah, and she's wonderful.
great. Okay, great.
And I had reached out to her when it first happened, and you know, like all the healing was happening and everything. So
I know that there are groups for people that have been in
Yes.
narcissistic relationships, and that could be really supportive. I think probably a great way to not feel alone and see all these like these very traditional things that they do, and sort of help remove yourself and redevelop your sense of self. There's the book that my friend Paula Bruce, who is an incredible therapist, and she has her own group practice here in LA. She's the one that told me about Donna Christina Savary. She wrote a book called Echoism, The Silenced Response to Narcissism. I think that's really lovely because then, as opposed to continuing to orbit the narcissism, you're working on yourself.
actually, that reminds me, that's another thing when getting out of a relationship, you have to cut them off completely.
Oh, yeah.
You have to cut them off completely. You have to block them everything.
Yes. Thank you for telling us that. Block that bitch.
Because and mentally, the way to get around it for yourself, it tortures them because they can't get to you for more supply. So they don't have control.
This word supply is so gross.
I know.
It's such a good word for it, though.
It's such a good word because it dehumanizes them.
Yeah. And I think when you're leaving, you need to dehumanize them. Like, you
exactly.
need to be able to go to if you're an empath, you need to shut that down for yourself.
Yeah.
Get the fuck away.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it to look at it as empowering to cut them off versus like, oh, I don't want to, like, because there is an addiction, there's a trauma bond that happens there.
That's
so
right.
if you cut it off and you're like, oh, this is hurting them because they can't try to control me, they don't know what I'm up to, they're in the dark. So that's gonna.
And hopefully they're not a psychopath in the dark, just a narcissistic personality disorder person. Because if they're a psychopath, get yourself some witness protection. But anyway, don't worry about that. They're probably not a psychopath. They're probably yes, they're probably not a psychopath. Oh God, it's so hard to not mess up the terms.
I know.
But yes, cut them off completely. This
Yeah.
is such good information. This has been so helpful Do you want to tell us about how you're not just super smart and beautiful, but you're also funny and like
gosh.
you have shows coming up? Like, what do we need to know?
I do have shows coming up. A lot of like local stuff right now. I'm working on a tour.
Local's rad. It's LA.
Yeah, I get a lot of DMs about like, when are you coming to this city or that city or this city? And I do it all myself, so it takes a lot of work for me to book all these things, but my goal for 2025 is to actually get a tour, so.
That's dope.
Yes.
Where do you want to go on your tour?
I mean, I've done shows here and there, like across the country or whatever, so I need to line up those places and then add more in. Go to my Instagram, there's a link in the bio, there's only one link. And
Which
then,
is Julia Jasunas something, or just Julia Jasunas?
just Julia Jasunas, that's me.
Great.
On my Instagram. You can join my mailing list and then you'll know when I come into your city.
And then you'll know.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Okay. Is there any other stuff that you wanted to share that you think is so important to share that we can edit in?
If you come out of a narcissistic relationship with someone with that, just dive into learning about it, because I think that's how I process things. And like, I just want the information to understand what I just went through, because then you can it'll help you detach from that person. Unfortunately, they do the exact same thing to each person. And then you just have to realize, then the work with you begins, because then you have to realize, well, I came from a genuine place. I have this ability to love. I have this capability of listening, understanding, being empathetic, all of these things. And so can I channel that into self-love and then also into a healthy relationship, and what does that look like?
I love it. And now you're in a non-narcissistic relationship.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. It's been about 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
You live to tell.
It's possible. You do have to do the work. Otherwise, you're going to end up in another one.
Did you have to be alone for a bit?
I was alone for a bit. I was also out of that second one. I was processing as I was getting out of it. So it was easier to heal from that one faster.
Great.
A lot of the work was done as I was like detaching and going away. So, yeah.
I think you did fantastic. It was so nice having you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye. Okay. Thank you for listening to us today. We know that you could have spent this time with a true crime podcast, but you care about mental health too, and that's balance. And we appreciate you. Go ahead and subscribe, please, and give us 5 stars. And if you didn't like it, like most of my family, just lie. Remember, this wasn't medical advice, but an irreverent conversation about mental health. New episodes drop every Tuesday on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube, and everywhere else that we could manage to upload it. And hey, if you liked today's comedian, look them up and follow them. They are brave and they're talented. And if you have friends, good for you. That's a good sign. Now please go tell them about us.